Hello and welcome to the Deep NBA podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dave Boff, Mr. Boffman, man. How are we?
I'm good, Sean. I'm devastated that Devin Booker didn't get 50. But
yeah, well, usually the Phoenix Suns sort of chase for it a little bit, don't you? You always sort of just muddy up the game, regardless of the score, to try and chase individual accolades. So
that's actually a pretty rude thing to say about the team and the player that has the only active 70 point game, which is 6th all time in NBA history. So.
And on Kobe Day.
And on Kobe Day.
And Gianni, is it actually there? I mean, I saw him all over Twitter, but I don't know if it was.
Boy, it could be. I remember the day that Kobe died very well, because Kobe died, but also I played in a charity netball tournament with my former netball team, the Pink Pirates. Shout out to everyone of Pink
26th of January,
which is
changed the date of Kobe Bryant's death day.
But how does the date transfer work? That means that it is today.
It is today, 27th.
It is today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
I'm wearing.
Rest in peace to a real one, but also rest in peace to the Pink Pirates social netball charity bushfire charity match, because we absolutely just cleaned up.
Yeah, really.
Pretty dominant performance.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Was it like? Were you playing against teams that you were used to? You had the scout on them, or was it just?
No, we played somewhere Bayside. It was like in some suburb I've never even heard of, and it was like a 50-minute drive.
The Bay, they call it.
Yeah, so we were playing. We were kind of like the northern interlopers into like the south side netball ecosystem, and obviously northern superiority over the south side. We just romped them. Yeah. We just absolutely romped them. Sitting out there all day in the blistering sun in between games didn't dampen our stamina or enthusiasm, and gave me plenty of time to reflect on Kobe's passing.
Holy shit. And then obviously the doctor arrived, the Fremantle doctor, and cooled everything down.
No. This was here. I wasn't there. I wasn't in WA yet. Doctor, nowhere to be seen. Could use a doctor right about now. The last 4 or 5 days could have used a doctor. Where's the locum when you need him? The locum? It's like a doctor that comes and visits you at your house. Like a travelling doctor.
Yeah,
anyway.
like Doc Martin.
Yeah, pretty much. If you knew what a locum was, that joke would have absolutely slapped.
Awesome.
It's you, not me.
Well, no better segue than that to talk about the NBA trade deadline. And now, obviously, there's been heaps of news coming out, and you and I could sit here and we can waffle on about the future of James Harden. But nothing for the reports like James Harden, where nothing is actually going to happen until the off season, and maybe it just means that they're not going to trade Ben Simmons and so on, and John Wall, and a first doesn't get you Russell Westbrook in this economy and all that, but no, there's nothing too substantial out there and too new, so we've decided to create our own trades, which is a classic for the NBA podcast community, just to make up your own trades when there's nothing there to talk about. So Dante and I have brought 3 trades each. We fully know what each other's trades are, so that we're not going to get on the spot sort of takes. We're going to be actually have a look at it and try and see like who wins this, who would say no, and so on and so forth. So we'll run through 3 trades each, 6 trades in total. And I know our friends over at the JVG NBA Tribute Show love non-regular numbers in their listicles. So this isn't 5, 10 or 3. This is 6. And is there anything else to add? Have I topped off everything?
I feel like 6 is a pretty regular number. If we wanted to be, a bit like, whoa, it'd be like 7. I feel like 6 kind of with 2 people, like it's divisible by 2 pretty easily. Like I don't know.
You can't actually do that. Because like 6 is afraid of 7.
Yeah. What about 7, 8, 9?
Yeah, that's the incident.
Oh, that was a car crash. All right. Well, you should kick us off with your first trade.
So this is a trade that sends Gary Harris to Cleveland. So Gary Harris will traded from the Orlando Magic for the expiring salary of Ricky Rubio and a 2022 second-round pick coming from Houston. I think that might have been in the Kevin Porter Jr. deal, or was that a top 55 protector? Was that? I probably shouldn't have muddied that up, but the deal is the Cavs get a shooting guard, someone who can help them immediately, help slot right in where Colin Sexton isn't, play next to Darius Garland, just add a little bit more spacing, because Gary Harris has actually figured out how to shoot again. He's remembered how to stay healthy, remembered how to shoot. Probably not worth $20 million a year, but that was also sort of the thing when he signed that deal in Denver. So I really like this deal because obviously the Cavs, they have a window now. They beat the Bucks today, which is actually pretty big because now the rest of their schedule is, I think, I'm 99% sure here that they have the easiest schedule moving forwards. Now, obviously, no Kevin Durant for a couple of weeks, no Ben Simmons for the rest of the season. Probably the East is wide open. So this is the Cavs' time to strike. In saying that, I don't think that the Cavs should give up a future first-round pick this season to improve this season because they still are very young and like their whole core is young. So I don't want to say like, oh, okay, they've made it, push your chips in, win a title because they're not going to win a title this season. So I really like trying to get the best available thing for a second-round pick and that expiring contract. And I think Gary Harris is that. What do you think about this deal?
I like it. My only qualm with it is that Gary Harris, I believe, is expiring this off-season, which means he's potentially not coming back, depending on how things go. Is it worth like using, to whatever extent this is like ammo, like this is the move that you're going to make to like shore up your run for this season? Like, could you look to bring in a player who's got longer left on the deal that could be like an actual part of your team moving forward without putting a first round, someone of like a Gary Harris level that you could get with this deal that maybe has like another 2 years on their deal instead of being like a 3-month rental potentially.
But I think like because Ricky Rubio is expiring at the end of the year as well, so he's potentially a 3-month rental. He's just not going to play for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
right?
well, he's just wiping off the salary sheet for whoever.
And you also sort of do want the cap space at the end of the year because you don't know what they're going to do with Colin Sexton. Like, do they want to be a cap space team who re-signs Colin Sexton and then makes another play and gets Larry Markkinen in again, right? Or do they want to trade for a guy who has a couple more years left on their deal? Then you're like, okay, re-signing Colin Sexton puts us into the tax unless we try and dump Kevin Love somewhere. So it just keeps the flexibility because, like I said before, you don't want to invest too much into this season. And I do. It is a sideways move, but the sideways move is this guy's much more healthier than the guy with a torn ACL right now. So,
yeah, and it means that you might be getting from having someone like Gary Harris who can actually shoot and maybe dribble or at least be 2-guard size and stand on the court means that instead of being a first round out, you might get into the second round, the experience of which will be really valuable for all of their young players. So if that's the cost, essentially just like wiping Ricky Rubio's salary off the sheet and like a Houston second round pick, which would be a pretty good pick. That's going to be like, between 30 and 35.
Yeah, definitely.
If that's the cost, I think that's fine. Especially because this team is like, no one's really taking them seriously as like an Eastern Conference Finals contender just because there's so many good teams that are not really kind of like differentiating themselves. But you'd be looking at like the Bucks, the Nets, the Heat, the Bulls, all as like teams that would make the ECF over the Cavs. But they've got a better record than the Bucks. They're the 3 seed right now. They've beat everyone basically. Maybe there's a 10% chance that they make the ECF, and if adding Gary Harris makes it a 15% chance, then like that's a not nothing.
That 5% is just like a stupid number, but to give up just a second round pick to be that, because they probably would be that much better, and not even worrying about getting to the conference finals, just being able to get home court advantage in the playoffs, like that'll be amazing to have this young team get a top 4 seed. I think that's what you sort of got to focus on, rather than winning a series because they are so young.
Yeah, but if you get the top 4 seed, you still want to win the series with home. Yeah, you still want to get at least to the second round.
Well, a 4-5 between pretty much any of these good East teams right now with Cleveland would be pretty good.
But if they stick where they are, there might be the chance that if you're like the third, maybe if you're the 3rd seed, definitely if you're the 2nd seed, that you'd be playing like a much weaker team. Like there's a group of 6.
Yeah, like Indiana or something.
Indiana?
No. Well, that's what you said at the start of the year.
I said a lot of things about Indiana at the start of the year that I regret all of them.
From Orlando's point of view, you've got a guy in Gary Harris that you got given in the Aaron Gordon trade as salary matching, but also you got paid. I'm saying paid because they got 2 assets there. They got paid not only to give up Aaron Gordon, but to take on the contract of Gary Harris. So if you're going to take on a dude like an OKC type, like you've taken on a guy, you've got the asset in the process. If you can flip him for a good second round pick, like that's a great piece of business. And look, Ricky Rubio, whether you just want to say to him, hey, we're not going to re-sign you at the end of the year. We do have your bird rights, but like obviously we're Orlando, we're not trying to win. Or just say like, here's a capable point guard who, if we can re-sign to market value, can be just, you know, a veteran.
They've got no need for a point guard because they've got Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz, and Jalen Suggs.
Yeah,
so there's no way that he would come back because he was genuinely really good this year. So he's not going to get 18 million, but like he would get 12 easy on the open market.
I don't think so.
I reckon he will.
Do you want to bet a picnic on it?
Yeah, I'll bet.
I think he'll get under 10 mil.
Why don't we bet some Pico organic mint chocolate on it?
Sure.
All right.
I think he'll get under 10 million because the ACL is going to scare so many people away. And what is he, like 33?
Yeah, but how good was he?
Yeah,
he was sick.
How good are most people after a torn ACL?
Heaps of people come back after torn ACL.
Like the year later.
Well, you get him for the second half of next season, and you get him for one more year. I wouldn't, if I needed a good backup point guard, I wouldn't hesitate putting 10-12 down on Ricky Rubio. I think because he was probably the best backup point guard in the league this year.
Yeah.
Which is
I agree.
Which is value.
I just don't like the track record of wrong side of 30 torn ACL. But we'll wait and see.
Well, fair enough. History will probably prove you right over the course of if that's your logic, you'll probably be right more than you are wrong.
All right, let's move on to
Should we? Because I've got a Cavs trade as well. Should we just do the Cavs trade together?
Sure.
I feel like that makes more sense than coming back to it. So my Cavs trade, which also involves Ricky Rubio, unlike yours, does involve getting rid of Colin Sexton. I can't believe I said those words. It's so emotional for me. But I've got the Cavs trading with the Spurs, and so they bring in Derek White and Lonnie Walker, the fourth. In exchange for Rick Rubio, that Houston second, and Colin Sexton. So rather than bring in someone who's like a kind of like a spot up stopgap like Gary Harris, they bring in Derek White, who's just in my conception of this trade just like a rock solid starting two who can play. Lead guard, he can play off guard.
Better Gary Harris, really.
Yeah, better Gary Harris. He signed on a 4-year, $60 million deal. So you've got he's locked. That takes away some of your financial flexibility, but you don't have to worry as much about that when you're sending Rick Rubio out, and you're also sending Colin Sexton.
Yeah, and they're not going to be a cap space team.
Yeah, exactly. And Lonnie Walker is just a throw-in, like whatever. Maybe he brings you some ball handling and shooting. Maybe he doesn't. And for the Spurs, you just kind of say, yeah, Pop's probably leaving. We're pretty shit. Let's just get rid of... Because Derek White's sneaky old. He's like almost 28. Let's get rid of this guy, clear some cap space, because again, you can just wipe Rick Rubio's number off the books for next season. And then you get to re-sign Colin Sexton, which is probably going to be... You know, you don't want to be too speculative, but I reckon you'd be optimistic that you could get him at like less than 20 million.
Definitely.
Like probably in the 15 ballpark. So, and Sexton's a better player than White, at least in my eyes anyway. So,
and a bit of intrigue.
Yeah, a bit of intrigue.
He's obviously got like the blue chip prospects galore around him.
I feel like in a lot of the Sexton discussion, like the fact that he was like 20, 21, 22, and he was putting up 25 points and shooting like effectively like 50, 40, like 85, while like carrying the offensive load for a team that had no one else. Like that's really impressive. Obviously he's got his warts everywhere else, but yeah, the intrigue is there that if you could just get him, sign him to a reasonable number, then he's kind of like on your team, and he might be the kind of player that you want during a rebuild anyway, because he can... Maybe
you'll lose more games.
Well, he can kind of like anchor the offense in a way that maybe you need. Well said. But also, he's the sort of player who, if he plays reasonably well, a championship contending team might come calling and try and drop like 1 or 2 firsts on him if he plays well, like 2 seasons down the line, like Utah did with Jordan Clarkson, or name any team that's ever made a trade for like a scoring guard. You know what I mean?
Golden State Warriors, Jordan Crawford, 2014.
Damn, you fucking got it. I was thinking like J.R. Smith Cavs. Yeah, that's only half. Definitely. That's only half in jest. But that's the kind of player that like a lot of playoff teams come looking for at the trade deadline. It's like, how can we get a guard scorer, wing scorer? And he fits that bill really well. So he's a future asset. Lock him up. What do you think about this?
I like it. I like the Derek White, the Sexton, the Ricky Rubio, second round pick part of it. But I think what what are the Cavs going to do with Lonnie Walker the fourth? Because
he's just in there for numbers. He's in there for numbers.
Is there a way you can because the Spurs have that first round pick in 2025 from the Bulls in the DeMar DeRozan sign and trade?
Yeah.
And obviously, the Spurs might be tanking, and after Pop retires, and might want to keep their own picks to obviously get number one pick, right? So if they can move, if there's a way to somehow just make Lonnie Walker not him and just matching salary and chuck in that Bulls pick,
there's not really, because the only other salaries to match that are in that range is Devin Vassell and Josh Primo, and the Spurs I don't think would include either of them in this deal. Lonnie Walker's definitely
no Drew Eubanks here, or
no, it's got to be. I tried a few different permutations. The next salary up is $3 million extra, I think, which is Thad Young, which takes Cleveland over.
Yeah.
So
I would just fair
does it
enough.
work? Are you more enticed if you just take out the second round pick? Do you think that balances it more?
I think.
Because, Lonnie Walker is whatever. They're probably not going to re-sign him. And if they do, it will be at a minimum. It's he's just in there to make the trade work.
But, if you're... take Colin Sexton out of it. You know what I mean? I think either... Or chuck the Bulls pick on top of this, and then you're trading for the guy in Colin Sexton. Because everything you've said about Colin Sexton is all the more reason for the Cavs just to make a Gary Harris type trade and then just re-sign Sexton.
Yes, but what's Sexton's role on this team?
Yeah,
and more to the point, is he accepting that role on this team? Is he sitting out this entire season watching them go sky high without him, and then coming back in and saying, "Yeah, you're right. I'm going to be the sixth man. I'm going to take it. I'm 23. Yeah. This is my chance to get paid. Not a chance."
Yeah.
So that's a complicating factor, but I also just think Derek White is a better fit. Derek White's exactly what this team needs as a secondary ball handler who can shoot, he can defend, he can feasibly, give you someone who can actually handle the ball when Garland's not on the floor. Mm-hmm. And not that this is a high bar to pass, but he is a better facilitator than Sexton.
But he has gotten better every year. Yeah, fair enough. I'll just sort of want a little bit more, but I just don't know what Sexton's value is around the league. Even before he tore his meniscus, what's his value?
This might be undervaluing him, but I guess they're undervaluing him knowing that they're not going to re-sign him anyway, so they may as well just, if you can get 85 cents on the dollar, you just do it, because what's the alternative? Is that you sign him to a...
Well, you can just trade the 19th pick for Cam Reddish.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Everything we have seen is that, and everything being the Bryn Forbes trade, which doesn't matter, and Cam Reddish, is that one thing has been undervalued so far. Yeah. So maybe that's a sign of things to come. Maybe that's the tiniest of sample sizes.
Yeah, it could be. Just before we move on, question for you: when the fuck did Boogie Cousins get on the Nuggets?
Honestly, 2 weeks ago, and it just took forever to open up the roster spot for him. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's fine.
They've got a hole at backup 5, and I thought Zeke Naji was going to fill that hole, but he's clearly proven that he is a 4 and situational 5, and he's making heaps of shots off the dribble and fading away.
What Boogie is?
No, Zeke Naji.
Yeah,
think of him a 6'10" shooting guard.
Yeah.
So it's actually nice having Boogie in there, and he's just done Boogie things so far. He got ejected. He got ejected today. He got some flagrant against Detroit, I think, or just hard fouls and stuff.
I was watching my housemate was watching the Nuggets today, and I was doing some work and just looking for something to procrastinate with. So I came in and just it was 5 minutes left. I'll just sit down and watch the end of the third or something. See Boogie posting up on the block, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? When did this happen?
Yeah. Hasn't changed a bit, man. He'll still be posting up, get an offensive call, and then take massive strides while shaking his head with his eyes shut. It's he looks just like he's in a Sacramento jersey. It's all lovely.
Well, you know what they say, you can take the man out of Sacramento, but
just look at Mike Malone, mate.
Something.
Mike Malone and Boogie have been texting and staying in touch ever since Sacramento. They're good friends. Honest to God friends. How hey, Sacramento, why'd you fire him?
That's a potential sliding doors moment. Firing him,
a door to the garbage bin.
Well, that team was the most promising Sacramento team of the decade, that 2011-12 Kings team. Even more so than
Fox.
or Walton, I think. Because
Boogie was a top 5 player.
Top 5 player?
Sorry, like top 3 centre.
No, he was a top 1 centre for a couple of years there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there were no centres. It was like DeAndre Jordan and Marc Gasol.
No, it was the post Dwight peak, pre Jokic, Embiid kind of 3 or 4 years.
Pre-unicorn.
Yeah, it was pre-unicorn, and there were like a lot of great centers that were warty in some regards, like a DJ, like a Joakim Noah. Defensive Player of the Year, Joakim Noah, or a Gasol, but he was hands down the best out of all of them. He was like 24, 11, and 5 at his peak, and would go for 50.
And the New Orleans were like, let's put him next to Anthony Davis.
Well, allegedly that was before we knew that putting two interior big men next to each other was a bad idea.
And now here we are with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley.
Yeah, and then just. They're playing around. Evan Mobley's so skinny.
He's so good.
He's really good, but I'm just like, he kind of looks like he's playing. He looks like he's from like the under 18s, and he's like playing with the under 20s. He's kind of been called up.
Yeah, sure. I'm loving the Kevin Garnett comps as well. They're always nice to see.
Yeah, we love that.
But it just doesn't seem like a rude bloke. Seems like a nice guy.
A rude bloke.
Yeah.
I bet he's not as good of an actor as KG.
Sure. Yeah, Heartstrings on Blood Diamond, but with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
So, explain your next trade. Speaking of centers.
Explain.
Mitchell Robinson.
You put me on the back foot. Like I have something to explain. Like now explain this.
I mean, it's not that bad.
Bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go on.
It's an outside the box idea.
The depth, the deep two. God, that's a mouthful. Anyways, I'm Marco, co-host of the Hey, Daniel Gafford, what's the name of our podcast?
The JVG NBA Tribute Show.
Wow, I can't believe it's that easy. Thanks, Gaff. You probably know us as two members of the Four Man Weave plus Marco, but we know you as our next listener.
Well said, Lucas. I gotta ask, how do we differ from the pack of basketball podcasts?
It's a great question, Marco. You see, on our basketball podcast, we have two male co-hosts.
Wow, truly groundbreaking. After this episode, stay on your favourite podcasting app and give us a spin.
Anyway, thanks for just completely trashing it before I even say it. So the trade is between the Knicks and the Hornets. The Knicks are giving up Mitchell Robinson, and the Hornets are giving up JT Thor, which is just salary filler, and a 2022 second round pick. The reasoning here is that everyone in the league knows that Charlotte needs a centre and wants a centre, but giving up real assets for someone like Rashawn Holmes or other, like a Clint Capella, like that, those guys Miles Turner, those guys are going to take something really substantial. Like that's probably going to be that's the move that this team's going to make for the next 2 years if they bring in like a really rock solid starting centre. And so this is essentially just a really cheap way of taking a flyer on someone who at one point showed that he could be one of the most promising young bigs in the league. The Knicks aren't going to re-sign Robinson. He's up at the end of the year. So for Charlotte, if he plays well, you can hopefully re-sign him for something around or less than the MLE, which is about $9 million, which is fine, and it means that you can best case scenario, you save the assets that you'd have to spend on someone else, get between 75 and 80% of the production that you get from Mitchell Robinson and lock him up on a good contract. And for the Knicks, you just get something for him before he walks, because he's going to walk, because he is the odd man out in their big rotation, and things have not quite worked out for him after his first year and a half in the league.
Things look so promising for Mitchell Robinson at the start.
He literally had I think maybe in his rookie season he set the NBA record for block percentage or something.
It's NBA record for field goal percentage.
Yeah, well, he had some.
He beat Will Chamberlain.
He had some crazy block percentage as well.
But he also I was just looking it up now because he fouls the fuck out of
Yeah,
ball.
he's definitely not walking in as like a.
This is your defense.
Yeah, you're kind of like, okay, can we hope that with the rest of this season, different environment, different coaching, we can get him to settle down a little bit. Because in theory, he could be your defense, and he's the exact sort of like athletic running big that would be perfect with this team on the fast break. Because someone like a Miles Turner, even a Clint Capella to some extent, like they're definitely lob threats, but they're not like
Transition
athletes.
lob threat.
Yeah, they're not running the floor.
Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson would be offensively, like as a lob threat, this team would be perfect.
Yeah.
So if you can unlock that theoretical defensive presence, could be an option. And if it doesn't work out, you've given up effectively nothing.
Yeah.
And you've still got
second rounder from Toronto.
Yeah, you've still got your ammo that you can explore the trade market with.
I like that Mason Plumlee would still be there. Like, obviously, Mason Plumlee's a bit of a laugh, but, you know, he is a replacement level centre. So it's not like, okay, all our eggs are in the Mitchell Robinson basket. It's like, this is a very buy low flyer where if he gets 4 fouls in the first quarter, Mason Plumlee can just come in. You've still got a good centre, let's say.
Yeah. Just see how he fares, and if you like what you see, you can lock him up. He's not going to have a big market, so you can get him locked up on, I don't know, let's say like 2 years, 16 million or something. That's fine. You can pay that for Mitchell Robinson with the hope that he gets better, and that doesn't stop you in any way from bringing in someone better if the opportunity arises. Rather than being premature and just, you know, like you give everything you've got for Rashawn Holmes, and then it turns out that Rashawn Holmes is
Not that
good, you know.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about my trade, which is my big one that took a lot of cogs in my
This
head.
is an
ticking
absolute
over.
monstrosity, this one. I looked at this and I was like, whoa, I need a drink.
Well, there's non-alcoholic wine right there for you. All right, so I'll explain it in the clearest way possible because I thought about how to explain this clearly, but you've got a 76ers trading Ben Simmons, who in the sheet says Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris to the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are trading back John Collins, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Danilo Gallinari, and that Charlotte first round pick that they just got in exchange for Cam Reddish, right? So then the Sixers have all those guys. They've just traded it for 3 players, and then they flip Danilo Gallinari and that first round pick to Houston for Eric Gordon, and then they turn around and give John Collins straight up to Detroit for Jeremy Grant.
Okay, so can you say that, but just say what everyone comes out with?
So the Hawks get Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. The Pistons get...
I don't know why, but that's fucking hilarious.
The Pistons get John Collins. The 76ers get Eric Gordon's, Jeremy Grant's, Bogdan Bogdanovic's. I'll say it again, but I won't be funny. So the Hawks get Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons. Pistons get John Collins. Sixers get Eric Gordon, Jeremy Grant, Bogdan Bogdanovic. And the Rockets get Danilo Gallinari and a first round pick. So from the Hawks' point of view, they give up a lot of players to get 2 players. You would think that because they're giving up arguably worse players for Ben Simmons, they would have to give up more picks than just the 1 pick that they gave up, which is the Charlotte pick, which is, as we know, going to be in the 20-ish range. But they're taking on Tobias Harris's salary, which I see as much more negative than I think you do. But they're taking on Tobias Harris's salary, and that's part of the payment instead of the picks for Ben Simmons. The Pistons get off Jeremy Grant, who it seems as though if he's not going to get traded, he's going to leave anyway. And they trade him for John Collins, who might be an imperfect fit in basketball today, but he's got 5 years remaining on his deal, and you're not going to be good. So you're going to say, Cade Cunningham, here's a guy who you just get to play pick and roll with for the next 5 years. Maybe he develops into some amazingly defensive center. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he is just this offensive power forward who wants more of the ball in his hands. He's going to get that when he goes to Detroit. But you've got him, and I'm sure we would all love to see what John Collins can do. But it's not really looking like he's place where he's going to be able to really stretch his wings, pardon the pun, on the Hawks, right? So I like him. I feel bad for him having to go through the whole rebuilding phase with the Hawks. Now he's going through another rebuilding phase, but I also like to just keep kicking the John Collins can down the road.
But also, for him on a personal level, for John Collins, he would froth going to the Pistons
He
because
would.
he'd get to be the undisputed like 1A of the offense, and he'd get his touches, and he would feel like the big man on campus. He clearly is very touchy about his role with the Hawks and like not feeling highlighted enough. Like
Also, grow your arms then. And
Well-
play centre.
yeah, you should have thought about that.
Like he's literally a T-Rex. I'll keep going.
Yeah, but anyway, he'd have a fun time in Detroit. He'd have a fun time.
He'd be the man on Little Caesars Arena. So, the 76ers get Eric Gordon, Jeremy Grant, and Bogdan Bogdanovic. That is going on. They're already plentiful depth with Seth Curry, Danny Green, Matisse Thybulle. Like they have a capable 11-man rotation here. That might be too many, but I like the CJ McCollum trade, even though it's not going to happen. Like a potential CJ McCollum trade, just because I'm like, just get good players around Joel Embiid because he's obviously playing at an MVP level. This gives you 3 extra good players. And for the Rockets, they cop $20 million of Gallo's salary this year. They get paid a first-round pick in doing so. It's going to be in the 20s, but either way. And Gallo, if they just waive him at the end of the year, they can just cop the $4 million in partially guaranteed that he's owed. So the Rockets somehow eke out a first-round pick for Eric Gordon, that's what I'm a little bit iffy about, because Eric Gordon has 2 more years after this one at around just under
How
20
the
million.
fuck did that happen? Things that just seem to make no sense.
It was one of those things where everyone was giving shit to Tillman Dirty Fingers for Titter for not paying money, and he goes, well, how about this? $60 million, Eric Gordon.
fucked up.
Yeah, he's shooting the ball really well this year, and he's shooting the ball.
He's got to make up for the last 3 years.
So, shut up, dog. So who says no here?
The Sixers say no. You can't trade Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris and get back 2 dudes who are plus starters and one dude who's a plus bench player on a terrible contract. I just feel like there's not enough. I just feel like they're giving up probably the first and third best players here and getting back like the 4th and 5th best players.
So, like, I agree with you. I think Philly do stand out, obviously, because they want a superstar. But in terms of, like, the value that you and I see for Simmons and Harris right now, like, this is probably where their value's at, because you don't know if Ben Simmons is going to play for 2 weeks until he gets to a new city, if he's going to play at all, what shape he's in, and whether he's fucking vaccinated, because that's actually still a question.
Yeah, I feel like there would need to be picks going Philly's way, but picks A don't do them a lot of good because they want to win now, and B, I don't know, like in this conception, like where the picks are coming from. But I just feel like that's too low. That's too low. And we've had this Tobias Harris discussion. I definitely appreciate that. Like one pretty compelling way of looking at it is that like the team that's taking him needs to be paid essentially, and that's why there's no picks included. But in bringing in Eric Gordon, you're also bringing in, like, it's not, he's getting paid half of what Tobias Harris is, but he's probably less than half the player of what Tobias Harris is. I don't know. It just makes me feel.
I mean, he's much older.
He's much older. He's on. Potentially for what he's worth, like more of or just as much of an albatross contract.
How would you feel if I did the deal, and a lot of questions here, but getting rid of the Hawks and subbing in the Kings and having it be based around De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield going to Philly, and then maybe they have to shed some salary elsewhere, that also gets routed to the Rockets.
What do you think about that? Would you rather have Grant and Bogdanovic or Hield and...
I just don't think Jeremy Grant's that good, so I'd rather have Fox.
Yeah, I also don't think Jeremy Grant is that good. And I think that Bogdanovic's impact is like not enough that I'd be prepared to like give up Ben Simmons. But the other thing is that I don't think Fox is a good fit in Philly, just because it's a team that wants to play fast and they essentially just need a half-court initiator. And that's not really Fox. Even when he's played at like an all-star level, that's not really his game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Jeremy Grant would be going back to the place where he started his career in the process Sixers. As I was saying to Jackson Leach before, did you know that the process Sixers in their first year on their roster had Robert Covington, Jeremy Grant, and Christian Wood?
Yeah.
And Hollis Thompson for what it's worth. They did a good job. They just didn't develop them at all.
Yeah. Well, difficult to keep guys on your team when you're signing them to unguaranteed minimum contracts and 55 players in one season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I the bones of something is here, but I just feel like ultimately Philly would say no. Not even bringing in like Morey power trip. You know, like Morey apparently thinks that he could trade Simmons. He could trade Simmons for LeBron if he just waits long enough. Yeah,
fair enough. It's very hard to make a Ben Simmons trade, especially if you're like me and you want to throw in Tobias Harris as well. I did also think about just the fact that John Collins might end up being on the same team as Embiid, and obviously John Collins wore the shirt, or was it Embiid who wore the shirt? No, John Collins wore the shirt that with him dunking on Embiid, and was just like, oh, he's a fuckhead. He didn't say that.
Yeah,
just smoking a dart. Well, can you give me a pot of Carlton?
John Collins is nowhere near as good as Joel Embiid, so I feel like he needs to kind of keep him. Yeah, breaking news. He needs to keep himself in check.
He might average more points in Detroit.
I do like the idea of John Collins just like unleashed in Detroit, like on a basketball level, but also for him, like good for you. Get to go and be the guy, and then have a Jeremy Grant experience. Be the guy. Realize that you being the guy are not really, you know, comparable to like the other guys around the league. Hopefully that scratches his itch. I don't know.
Can I just say the dog just farted?
Oh, is this the one that does really bad farts?
Like audible fart. Like,
what are you doing, Sasha?
That's fucked.
That's fucked up.
All right, I'll move on to the next deal, which is another one of mine, which is that OKC take a salary dump and they get a tangible player instead of an asset. So the Celtics...
Well, how tangible he is arguable, but...
The Celtics give up PJ Dozier and Romeo Langford, swiftly putting themselves under the luxury tax for this season. And OKC send back a guy I had not heard of before this. Obviously, he's just salary matching and matching.
What's his name?
His name is Vit.
What's his last name?
Krejci. Vit crazy. How crazy? A bit crazy. And obviously he would be promptly waived.
What the fuck kind of a name is Vit?
Oh, come on, mate.
You know he's born in 2000? Doesn't that just seem impossibly young? I know there's like people born in like 2003 that are in the NBA right now.
I was going to say, you know, there's people born in 2021.
If your name starts with, if your birth year starts with a 2, what are we doing here?
Red flag.
Red flag.
Oh, look at him. Stop sniffing. It comes up on the podcast. So he's from the Czech Republic. Dude, they're going to put together a mean roster in Paris Olympics with Tomas Satoransky. If they can put it together, that is. Yeah, it's drafted last year. Good on him. Anyway, so Boston will 100% make a move. They have to. All they need to do is get rid of like $1.9 million. And they'll dip under the tax. PJ Dozier paid $1.9 million. Which team says no here?
I think both teams do it.
Yep.
I think both teams do it. I'm not sold on Langford as a tangible asset, tangible player.
Because put in Aaron Naismith.
Yeah, I mean, while Naismith has more value just because he's not proven that he's average over quite so long of a time span as Langford. Naismith's only proven that he's average over 2 years, whereas Langford's done that over like 4 years. Yeah, I think both teams do it. I think this is a nice accounting trade for the Celtics.
Yeah, everyone's favourite. People are going to click on this podcast just to hear that.
Yeah, and everyone's like, say like Vit Krejci in the bio, and oh shit,
podcast bio.
This is going to do really well in the Czech Republic. This podcast is going to do really well.
It's going to do really well with our Czech Republic audience. Have you seen Don't Look Up?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, and I really like Jonah Hill's character, where he was just like, they're talking about Don't Look Up, and he goes, oh, this is going to do great with our like, Texas audience or something. I just really liked his character.
Did you like the movie?
Yeah.
I thought it was abominable.
Like bad.
Like, I thought it was one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Saw the writing and the dialogue and a lot of the
It trusted good acting more than good writing.
yeah, but a lot of the like kind of core concepts I felt were like poorly handled. Like the only defense of like there's an asteroid coming crowd is like, but this paper is peer reviewed, and then there it's like taken as like, you know, it's just such a simplification of like the peer review versus do your own research debate that's been going on in the world over the last 2+ years. To distill it down to that the only reason to like believe in the science is like that there's a peer reviewed paper, I just think is like it's just silly.
I feel like they skirted over that on purpose just to get to like the big fat metaphor of
Well, it wasn't really a metaphor.
it's pretty in your face.
Hit you over the head with it. I had an egg the next day.
Shut up. Don't No, I liked it. I really liked who was the president? What's her name? Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
She was cool. It's
Yeah.
nice to see her outside of Meryl Streep movies.
Yeah. Genre.
This, of course, DiCaprio movie.
Yeah.
And Jonah Hill's character was awesome.
Yeah. To be fair, I didn't watch all of it. I only watched half of it.
The
Yeah.
truth comes out.
But I still-
34.
I still did not enjoy it.
Okay, well, let's move on to our sixth and final trade from yours truly. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, sixth and final. Six is such a random number. I can't believe we landed on that.
Well, I was thinking of 7, but that means one of us would miss out.
Okay, all right. My trade involves the absolutely dismal Portland Trailblazers.
In the play-in race at the moment.
Yeah. Who would have thought that hiring a sexual abuser to be your coach would have not ended well for you?
Andrew O'Keefe is the head coach.
Wow. Some absolutely fucking shocking news that's come out today. Wow. Andrew bloody O'Keefe. And the West leading Phoenix Suns looking for some front court help. They bring in Larry Nance. They bring in Larry Nance Jr. for the cost of Dario Saric, Jalen Smith, and draft compensation to be negotiated. The reason why the Suns do this is because Larry Nance is a bit of a G and has been underutilized, improperly utilized in Portland. Phoenix really needs someone who can play big forward and 5, kind of like Torrey Craig did. Oh my god.
Did you actually mean that?
Nah, this is just a word of mouth. Fuck, the Americans are so... Say it properly. Say it properly. Anyway, that's another kettle of fish. Someone who can play the 4 and small ball 5, and Larry Nance would give a really intriguing look at that. We know he's good. We know that he can make plays as a pick and roll man in the short roll. He's a decent 3-point shooter, good defender. The reason why the Blazers are going to do it is because there's the prospect of getting some draft compensation in here. Saric is a useful player, whatever. He's just salary matching here. There's a prospect of getting some draft compensation here. And they need draft compensation because they traded away their entire future draft for terrible players.
I think that if Larry Nance is going to get traded, there's going to be better offers out there. So you would have to attach a first-round pick here.
I kind of don't know necessarily that there would. So the pick that they can attach is a 2024 first with whatever protection. It can be, it can be whatever.
Yeah.
I reckon that 2 seconds would get it done. I reckon this trade, 2 seconds would get it done.
So, you don't reckon, Chicago, Miami...
There are a lot of teams that don't have, Chicago not included, but a lot of teams that don't have picks to trade that are, in any kind of reasonable time frame. And then the other thing as well is
I just think there's a pick out there.
Saric is a useful player. Jalen Smith is an interesting one because he's a recent first-round pick that fits the mold of kind of picks or young players. But because Phoenix declined his third-year option, the team that gets his bird rights, because he's going to be a free agent, can only offer him 125% of his current salary, which caps it at offering him $5 million next year.
Not that he's really worth that as well.
Well, he played well as a starter. He actually played kind of well as a starter. The fact that Bismack Biyombo is coming off the street and he's bringing in some 16 and 14 games suggests that it's to do with Chris Paul getting the most out of players rather than Jalen Smith being an actual player. But if you don't think that Jalen Smith could get more than $5 million, all of a sudden he's in the trade as well as a young player. So I think that and 2 seconds is compelling. Yeah. If there are more, then if there are more offers out there, then you just throw in that first round pick in 2024, and then I don't know that there are better offers out there.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find where Bismack Biyombo was, because obviously free agent, you just grabbed him up for nothing.
On the couch.
On the couch. Well, he was actually, because he signed that massive deal, he was still in Charlotte until literally last year. I had no idea. Poor guy. Yeah, I mean, I like the move. I think if you're going to give up Dario Saric and Jalen Smith and a pick, you can probably get something a little bit better.
Interesting.
But I don't know what that better is. And I hate that. Like Larry Nance, you can start him at the 4 and then take Nurk off first and then slide him down to the 5. Like, just play him at the 5 and see what you've got. And I know, like, at the moment you've got Anthony Simons and like Tony Snell soaking up 30 minutes each, but like this is just, he just keeps getting mismanaged everywhere he goes. I think it was just in literally the end of last year is when he wasn't mismanaged, and it was a Cavs team that was losing anyway. Yeah,
and I don't think that the Suns would be a team that would bring him in and use him in some innovative way. I think that we would essentially use him for
as Jay Crowder.
Yeah, as Jay Crowder, but with a bit more on ball. Jay Crowder screens on ball for the purpose of generating a switch for the ball handler, whereas with Larry Nance, you can get him screening on ball for the purpose of him rolling to the rim. So that adds another wrinkle. And then I think like in the minute, if you go up against a team in the playoffs where you want to, in the minutes where DA isn't playing, where you want to go small, like put Larry Nance in at the 5 for 15 minutes.
He'll be great against the Warriors.
Like I like that. That's been the big weakness of the team since we let Torrey Craig go. Is that he played a lot situationally in the playoffs when we needed a bigger matchup, and he could play small ball 5. So yeah, I feel like this is a good replacement. I'm interested. I'm surprised that you think that we could do better.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think Thadjik's better, but
nah.
But this is the deal.
The
for
thing with
Thadjik
him,
as well.
the thing with him is that he's probably going to get bought out. Thadjik. So it would probably be silly for anyone to trade for him, unless you were like, there's no way we can get him if he gets bought out. But if he gets bought out and you've got like a compelling roster situation for him where he's going to play 20 minutes a game on a contender league, probably just sign him.
Now I'm thinking about it, you probably can't do better. Like, I mean, I was super high on Larry Nance heading into the season. I think I picked Portland over just because he was there and I thought they were going to be healthy.
Yeah.
I really hope Portland sells everything, and whether that be keeping Dame, just not playing him for the rest of the year and then just trying to like retool. But it's just so sad, like just watching a team try to win when they're clearly not trying. They're not in a place where they can win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched them play the T-Wolves the other day.
Yeah.
T-Wolves won in a nail biter. Man, Cat just wants to be Jokic so bad. He literally is just turning his back on the D, wherever he is, and just holding the ball out, like palming the ball and holding it away from his body at full arm extension in the most absurd, outrageous way. Like, just slinging it all over the place with these like one-armed passes that just get like intercepted or go out of bounds. Like, he's just like fundamentally, the only reason why Jokic can get away with doing that is because he's probably the best passer in the league at the moment. Cat is not that.
League history.
Well, someone called Steve Nash has existed.
Cat, yeah, you're not that guy.
You are not that guy. What are you fucking doing? Yeah. Like, how has the coach been like, hey, how about instead of like throwing like an over-the-head cross-court one-headed sling pass, how about you do literally anything else? Like, it's a bit Crazy. It's a bit much. I was watching it and I was like, wow, if I had you on my team when I was coaching under 14s, like I'd be having a word with you at halftime.
Yeah, but I don't know. Bloody Cat.
Damn, you don't have a scorching
I don't have a
hot
take.
Cat
I'm
take.
sort of getting like Cat's just sort of like being relegated to the back behind Ant Edwards and D'Angelo Russell is playing quite well this season. Like he's sort of just like, wasn't he supposed to be the next best centre? And now he's just like, oh okay, here's Nikola
But you can't
Vucevic.
say that. His whole family died of COVID.
Is he just Nick Vuce?
Is he just Nick Vuce? I don't know.
Like
He's a phenomenal shooter. He's like an absolute marksman. He's probably a better defender than Nick Vuce, but he's still not a good
But
defender.
in terms of career, when it's all said and done, like Vuce is like 2-3-time All-Star. Maybe the Wolves go on like a serious run, and he's the third, fourth best player or second best player. Like, is he like Pascal Siakam / with Vuce?
Yeah, that's an interesting.
And when he was drafted, he was supposed to be Jokic. He was supposed to be Embiid.
Well, when he was drafted, and then his first 2-3 years in the league, like he was an all-star by like year 3. Interesting. That's a bit depressing. Ant's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Watching him is a lot of fun. Even when he misses, you're just like, yeah, sick.
like-
Do that again.
it takes like 14 threes sometimes. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I guess that's good.
Yeah, when you see him in the box score with a big point total,
Yeah.
you just know he's either shot 83% from the field,
What number does
or
What number does it bloody start with, Dante?
or he's taken 29 shots and he's made like 11 of them and just like crammed it in at the line. He's just got like 10 of 10 from the line and shot like 29%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our 6 trades. Let us know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on the deals and what you think would happen. Actually, I actually chucked some questions in here for us. Which out of all these moves do you want to see happen? Which one, if you had to pick one that does happen, what would it be?
Yeah, so get in touch with us at...
No, I'm asking Dante.
Oh!
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Get in touch with us at P.O. Box. No, that's a
Sean McCall.
Sean McAuliffe joke. Most likely to happen would probably be the Celtics trade, not necessarily in its conception, but that idea of the Celtics sending out 2 players to get under the luxury tax is definitely going to happen.
Especially PJ Dozier. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, poor PJ Dozier.
But what do you want to see happen the most?
I'd love to see the Larry Nance trade happen.
I would love to see, whether it be your deal or another one, but Colin Sexton traded.
Yeah.
I would love him to
Where
get
do you
traded.
want him to get traded to?
I don't know.
And why do you
Just
wanna
because,
see it?
like, Darius Garland is your ball handler, and maybe you'll get...
So
like,
it's not like I can't wait to see what Sexton does
it's like, I want him
in a
away
new
from
environment.
Garland.
It's like banish him. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Garland's your primary ball handler. Maybe Mobley develops into like a high post initiator, but just get shooters and role players around him. Like I'm loving watching Darius Garland just do everything, contort the defense, throw some Mickey no look pass. Right. I don't want him to like be part of a swing. Oh, hang on, let me just stand here while Sexton dribbles for 9 times. We now know that this Cavs team is very good, and they have a good young core because some guy tore his meniscus.
And they found the balance. They didn't need to upset the balance.
Yeah, and it's great to draft best player available and do everything that they did. Like obviously they drafted Mobley despite having Allen. They drafted Garland despite having Sexton. But here you are, like you can now start selling off the other parts.
Yeah, I agree. One final note. We did these trades on Fanspo. And on Fanspo, they give like a little kind of like player designation under each player. So like for John Collins, for example, they've got versatile big.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, just like a little idea of like what they are. For like Romeo Langford, they've got like athletic finisher. For
Ben Simmons.
For Ben Simmons, they've got roll and cut big.
Just like Clint Capella. What was it?
It's hilarious. So you've got like little like vest hobby, like
John
primary
Colin.
ball handler, shot creator.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
What's Vit Krilla, but
What kind of player are the Celtics getting?
70 overall prospect.
Off-screen shooter. Tell you what, could use some of those.
Off-screen actor. Face for radio.
It's an off Broadway play. All right, well, can't wait for us to absolutely blow up in Prague with this one. Thanks to our friend Vit.
Dante, I'll speak to you next week. If you look for PointsBet's stock exchange listing, you'll find a bucket of jargon and doublespeak as they're considered a, quote, wagering services operator, unquote. That's a corporate stretch for the colloquial friendly brogan or, hey, look, it's Chris Bosh kind of image they're sending off with their targeted advertising. I don't know about you, but take me back to the days when former pro sports players signed brand deals with hair loss clinics or Fujitsu aircons, not, quote, wagering service providers.
If you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you come across the two of our faces morphed into one, would that make you listen to our podcast more? I mean, if it does, let us know and we'll start doing it. But when I see a few NBA players' faces morphed into one, it doesn't make me want to pull out my wallet and donate some money to my local wagering services provider.
The worst part is we're coming to accept it. Wagering service provider ads are so ingrained in our sports and the way sports is delivered to us, it's almost impossible to avoid. 3/4 of Australian children aged between 8 and 16 years who watch sport think that betting on sport is normal and can name one or more sport betting companies. When I was in school, I was struggling to remember Pokemon names, and I'd be furious if I knew that brain power was being used to put towards wagering service providers and not them.
The wagering service providers know exactly who to target. It's not okay to let them ingrain themselves in young Australians' minds. It's not okay to target people in the middle of a pandemic, and it's not okay for gambling companies to wield so much influence in the world of sports. To help kick gambling out of sport, use your voice and sign the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/petition.